There is an open contract out on me, and it's pretty much considered open season. One thing is guaranteed: you will kill for the organization. My first homicide I committed with a machete.
How much were you being paid?
I had $50,000 to play with on any given day. Our responsibility was to take out anybody who resisted selling our dope. The ones that didn't comply, we killed them on the spot. We're eating a Dodger dog, and we're talking about the expression on the victim's face when he died. It was an addiction.
My guest today is Ramon Mendoza, better known as Mundo. Mundo is a former hitman for the Mexican Mafia who's committed dozens of murders both inside and outside of prison. Mundo has a life story taken straight from the movie American Me. In fact, one of the main characters in that film, called Mundo, was named after him. That's how deep and influential he was within EME. Mundo is a vato from East LA who came of age in the late 1960s. He did his first prison bit for hacking a rival gang member to death with a machete when he was only 17 years old. He got shipped to San Quentin State Prison, where he made his bones and became a fully validated member of EME, the Mexican Mafia. What you are about to hear are some of the rarest insights into the inner workings of America's most powerful prison gang. After getting out of prison, Mundo continued with his killing spree until one day he got hit by a wave of guilt, call it a religious experience. He then volunteered to work undercover with law enforcement to help take down key leaders of the Mexican Mafia. Absolutely remarkable. That'll be in part 2, which you can get early over at our Patreon. Today, Mundo is an accomplished author and has written many books about this time period when he was with EME. Just type in Ramon Mundo Mendoza into Amazon. No living person today can talk about the things Mundo can. They're either dead or doing life in a supermax prison. This is a piece of treasure in the history of American street gangs, and I am so excited to share it with you guys. It's Mundo from the Mexican Mafia, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
I'll be honest, it's interviews like this that make me grateful that I even get to do this podcast. I'm telling you, this is so rare, you guys. A dude like Mundo, a high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia, all those guys are already dead or doing life in solitary confinement. So the fact that we could get him in the studio, the last living voice to talk about EME, like how it really is fascinating. You're gonna love it. Do me a quick favor before we get started. Let's get this video out to as many people as possible. Smash that like button, drop a comment below, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, just hit that sub button and turn on the alerts. All right, thank you so much. Mundo, enjoy. Mundo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are wearing a mask.
Right.
Most of the people we interview on this show that have ski masks on are in Mexico, where the danger is very real.
Right.
Do you think even to this day, your life could be in danger if your identity was revealed on camera?
And I would say totally. I know many in the gang world downplay that I'm trying to make myself look more important or whatever. If you, as we interview on all, as we do this interview, you will know that there's no such thing within the Mexican Mafia as they never forget. So there is an open contract out on me, and it's pretty much considered open season. So I do what I do that's worked for me for 76 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
A true OG.
I guess.
Okay, tell us where you grew up.
Boyle Heights, born and raised in East LA, just like the movie. Born in East LA. And in Boyle Heights is east of downtown Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. One of my books, that's the title of the book, The Boys from Boyle Heights. And in the Estrada Courts Housing Projects, that's the street gang that I became a member of later in life, VNE, Barrio Nuevo Estrada.
And your parents are from Mexico?
No, my mom was actually born in the U.S. in 1928. My grandparents were out here. My grandpa was working on the railroad in Arkansas City, Kansas. And they had property. They owned property in Chihuahua, Mexico. When Grandma got homesick in 1942, Grandpa packed up and took my 14-year-old mother, my mom was only 14 at the time, to Mexico. I don't want to say back to Mexico because she was born in Kansas. So they went back to Mexico, and she was like, damn, what am I doing here? Because she's an American. All her buddies are from the U.S., right? So she, at the age of 20, I believe it was, 21, she came back to the U.S. with a cousin of hers, and they went to L.A., and they both began working as waitresses. She was pregnant of me. That's why I tell people I was conceived in Mexico, but born in L.A., so does that make me a Mexican? No. Just kidding. Right?
Yeah. And your father?
My dad, she met my stepdad. My real father wanted no part of me.
Right.
He was in Mexico.
Right.
He was irresponsible. He just didn't want anything to do with a kid. So she met my dad, my stepdad, while she was waitressing, a hardworking guy, blue-collar guy, and he became, as far as I'm concerned, my dad.
Right.
And that was my stepdad.
Right. And you guys grew up in East LA. This is, pre-crack, violent crime.
Sure.
How was childhood?
Well, it was good. I loved it. It was turbulent. At home, I tell people, hey, all of this begins at home. Your direction in life, is established at home. That's your foundation. Your dad is very important. Your mom, you can take her for granted. She's going to be there.
Yeah.
Mama's there all the time, But dad's extremely important, and he was my stepdad. I think I represented the other man in my mom's life growing up.
Right.
So he took it out on me, bounced me off the walls quite a bit. I still loved him in spite of that because I just figured I did something wrong, to merit that. I had a low self-esteem. And so my rebellion against authority was directed at my dad.
Right.
I'm not blaming him at all for my decisions in life. I ultimately became seduced by the street gang community. It was all around me. 90% of people that grow up in gang-infested areas do not become gang members. That's a misnomer. But your chances of getting involved are higher, obviously, if you grow up in that area. And I think that's what happened to me. I had the contributing factors of the turbulence and the dysfunction at home with my dad. I was a brain in school. I was very, in the smartest classes, but I couldn't overcome the rebellious spirit. And then what I kind of loathed in school, when I would see gang members, I would make fun of them, not to their face, but with the other brains, the other brainiacs, we would kind of make fun of the way they dressed, the way they comported themselves, etc. And then lo and behold, I became a gang member. Little by little. Part of that was the rebellion against my dad, ending up in jail. When I first arrived in juvenile hall, what did I see? Polarization. Whites, blacks, and Mexicans would go to their own groups. So I figured, well, in order to survive, this is what I have to do. So,
what did a gang member look like? A Chicano Mexican-American gang member look like this is the 50s we're talking, late 50s.
Late 50s and through the mid-60s, tattoos, hair slicked back, khakis, Friscoes, Pendleton shirts, Sir Guys. In fact, there was a store, I have a picture somewhere of Al's Army and Navy on Whittier Boulevard, and they sold nothing but apparel. I think today there's a store somewhere in Southeast LA called Greenspans. They supplied a lot of the attire for the movie set of American Me, and they do that for other movie sets that depict cholos, right? Gang members from that time frame. So that was the typical attire.
Wow.
I even have a write-up from the LA Herald Examiner, a newspaper that's now extinct, of in the fashion page, they did a story on cholo fashion,
Yeah,
so
it was really fly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're well built, you got the suspenders and the socks rolled up.
Oh, yeah.
I assume nobody really had guns.
Yeah.
It was mostly switchblades. And
we did have access to guns, but they were not as prevalent, obviously, as today, where you got automatic weapons abounding. But back then, it was predominantly tire irons, bumper jacks. My first homicide I committed with a machete against a rival gang, and we had those kind of weapons,
Yeah.
2x4s, and anything that was not a firearm.
Yeah.
We had plenty of those, and
Yeah.
we utilized them. We were very proficient with knives, switchblades, stuff like that, which, of course, you learn to perfect this craft, this criminal craft, when you're behind bars. See, behind bars, you were going to learn how to take people out. Even in modern times, there were guys that were killed. We had access to guns all day long, shotguns, firearms, automatic weapons, and you'd hear about certain members killing their targets. I call it Folsom style. Taking them out with a prison knife
On the street.
or a shank. Yeah, like as if they were in prison.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that's how the structure of the gang operates. It's not the street to prison, it's prison to the street. The orders are given in prison to the street.
Yeah, today. And back then, as we go, if we're talking chronologically, back then it wasn't like that in the beginning, but you did have characteristics that I can tell you any gang in any part of this country, probably even in any other country, share these similar characteristics: status, fear, and money. Okay, status being the overriding. People that join gangs, they have a low self-esteem to begin with, apparently. Why would you join a gang? Right? So that becomes your family.
Totally.
Because something happened, something didn't go right at home. So you took your love to the street. Now, the fear that I'm talking about is not a trembling in your boots kind of fear. It's the fear of losing that status. Okay? People, once you get indoctrinated, and that is your family, when you hear them guys say, youngsters, that I'll die for my neighborhood, people laugh at that. And they go, this punk doesn't know what he's talking about. But they mean it, because that's all they have. That's their hood. That's who they are. So the fear of losing that status is the second characteristic. And then, of course, money. Everybody wants money for drugs, to survive, to pay the rent, to buy food, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the economic component of a gang in a criminal endeavor is financial.
Absolutely. So the first time you went to Juvenile, first time you were incarcerated, what happened behind that?
63, that was crossing the border, crossing back into the United States without ID. It was not a big deal at that time. And I was in San Diego Juvenile Hall for about a week. Mom was beside herself because we were visiting relatives in Tijuana. And so when Mom finally found out that that's where I was at and why, she got me out and everything. So that was minor. In 64, runaway, truancy, and I think was burglary was one of the charges. So that is when I was introduced to Los Angeles Juvenile Hall. And that's when I noticed, in the day room, in orientation, I saw an inmate get. And a lot of people tell me that in the movie American Me, that was the scene that was adopted from my book.
Right.
Because there were people, and I'm not going to lay them out, but there were people who read my book, my first book, my autobiography, The Gang of Gangs, Mexican Mafia, The Gang of Gangs from Altar Boy to Hitman. And I described what I saw in the orientation at Juvenile Hall. It was an inmate, another inmate at knife point.
Oh my God.
And everybody in the day room they acted oblivious to that event. And so I interpreted that as, maybe this guy's got it coming for some reason. Nobody's lifting a hand to help the guy. Why? And that's when I thought, maybe he's got that coming. And it wasn't until later that I discovered that the strong will prevail over the weak. In other words, if you show weakness and fear, and if you're considered pretty, this was back then, then you're subject to getting. See, back then, sex of men on other men was acceptable. Today, you hear people talk about, oh, he's got a sex jacket and we're going to kill him if he comes, because it's taboo. It's not allowed anymore, which is a good thing, in my estimation. But back then, it happened all the time.
Meaning, like, you didn't have bad paperwork. You weren't considered a bad dude in prison if you had been convicted of raping another man, or if you did it in the joint.
Or mostly in the joint. Yeah, I never heard of anybody raping another man on the street.
Right.
I heard of women, and today that's also considered taboo.
Right.
Is a woman. When you hear the expression or the phrase, he's got a sex jacket. All of that falls under that.
Yeah.
So it's considered taboo today.
So when you saw that, that's incredible. And when you first told me that story, I immediately thought back to the movie American Me.
Yeah.
Edward James Olmos's character. That's when he's a boy, and then he first goes into juvenile. That's what happens to him.
Right.
He gets and then he kills the guy who raped him. When you saw that happen.
You mean in the movie?
No, in real life.
In real life, yeah.
When you saw that happen in real life, did you think, I got to get myself a piece of steel? I can't be a victim.
The first thing, you're going to laugh when I tell you this. I used to comb my hair to the side. So the first thing and remember, I'm a smart guy. Even then, I was a smart guy. So I knew somehow I was going to survive all this. I was going to learn the ropes. And my first reaction was, why is this guy not resisting? I was a square from Delaware, but I'd be fighting my ass off. Yeah. I don't care shank or no shank. I'm going to be fighting, right?
Yeah. You're not going to get this easy.
And this guy is just real passive, and he drops his briefs. But the thing is, I'm thinking of possibly intervening on his behalf. But I look around, I say, well, before you take on more than you can chew here, Take the temperature. Why are the other inmates who are aware of what's going on, why are they not lifting a hand to help? There must be a reason. And that's why I backed off. But when I said you're going to laugh, I from orientation, which was a dorm, we get assigned to a room. And so when I got to the room, I had my own room, I had a mirror and everything, and I started brushing my hair back, combing my hair back. I said, my hair is going to be just like the other cholos.
Yeah.
Not to the side, I said, nobody going to try to hit on me because we're going to fight, And so that was my first reaction to that. But it was a traumatic, I think, looking back, it really opens your eyes and makes you think, what do I have to do to survive? What if somebody comes at me that way? What am I going to do? You got to be ready and this and that. And so that's how I, little by little, started learning the ropes. I became aggressive little by little. One of the things that one of the gang members told me there, he recognized me from school. And he said, hey, you were at Stevenson. I go, yeah, you're Bugsy. You're Bugsy from King Cobras. And so he kind of took mercy on me or whatever, or he looked at it like he's a fellow Chicano, he's right here with us. So he started telling me the rules, the reglas. You don't take any crap from anybody. If somebody disrespects you, especially from another ethnic group, you respond with violence. You don't wait. So I had an encounter with a black inmate who was playing the dozens. We were in a little area. We were in a trustee tank. And he started playing the dozens, sex talking, and I didn't think twice. I figured, hey, I'm not going to let even words enter. And I got a mop bucket. I dumped the water, and I hit him upside the head with the mop bucket, knocked him out, and they locked me up. They locked him up. He probably would have whipped my ass. He was a big guy. Probably would have whipped my ass if it would have been one-on-one. And I said, no. In jail, there's no straight up fair fight thing. If he's a bigger guy, I'm going to get him with an equalizer. I got him with a mop bucket, and I earned some respect.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You're earning respect.
Yeah.
You're not tolerating.
And how long was that first stretch in juvenile?
64. I think that one was about 10 months. I got out the day of the Watts riots.
Okay.
August of 1965, the Watts riots were going on, and there were a lot of gang members in my block. I had a cousin who worked for the sheriff's department, and they were from East LA sheriffs. They would go to every agency had cops and deputies that would go to the riots, and he was explaining how they would go 4 deep in a car, and he was sharing war stories of how they were busting heads, out from the people that were rioting.
This episode is sponsored by GLD. This is my go-to for all of my jewelry needs. I've been getting into jewelry. I'm trying to get into tattoos. I'm trying to become like a hot guy in my 40s. I don't know how it's working, but GLD is helping me get there. Check out this piece right there. I'm about to put this on one of the chains that I got from GLD and just look like I'm a rapper from the Bronx. The quality on this is crazy. It's got a nice weight to it. The detailing is super clean. And honestly, it just pulls together an entire outfit without even trying. What I like about their stuff is it's not something you only wear once in a while. This is everyday, throw it on and go type jewelry. It's durable, it's waterproof and sweatproof, and every piece is backed by a lifetime guarantee, so you're not worried about having to take it off all the time. And you can tell they really care about the craftsmanship. Real gold, hand-set stones, and it just feels premium the second you hold it or put it on. They've got everything too. Chains, pendants, bracelets, watches, whether you like to keep it simple or you want something that stands out. They've got millions of customers, tons of 5-star reviews, and you've probably seen their pieces on some big names already. Well, I am Johnny Mitchell from The Connect. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use code Mitchell, MITCHELL, to get 40% off at GLD.com. That's 40% off with code Mitchell at GLD.com. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. You guys, GLD, go do it.
And what gang now are you part of?
I haven't joined a gang yet.
Okay, so you're just...
But I'm hanging around with the V&E guys. But I remember I just got out from doing time, my first little stretch. They violated me in December, and I ended up parlaying what should have been a 60 or 90-day parole violation into 3 years and 2 months in the youth authority. And you talk about screwing up. I joined the ethnic clique, which would be the equivalent to a prison gang, but it really wasn't. It's just the ethnic clique. Every ethnic group had their little clique of enforcers. So I became like one of the enforcers. I became the pres, which is Spanish slang for president of L Company. L Company in Preston. Preston is with a youth facility. I ended up, and I still hadn't joined a gang because I'm in jail and I'm living it up, and a lot of violence, a lot of attacks. I almost killed a guy with a barbell.
Wow.
He was a weightlifter, and I got him in the weight area, and he was claiming to be from a neighborhood that he wasn't, and I got him with a dumbbell. I think it was a 15, 20-pound dumbbell, the ones you do the curls with, and knocked him out. His body was convulsing, and my fear after I did the deed is maybe I had killed him, but he survived.
And you hadn't yet killed anyone?
I hadn't yet killed anyone.
Okay.
I didn't kill anyone till I turned 19. So when I get out of the YA, and I tell you I did 3 years and 2 months, I was 19 years old, going on 20. I hadn't turned 20 yet. And then while I was out, I wasn't out but a couple months, and I end up getting, I go to White Fence. That's our rival, one of the rival neighborhoods that we battle against in Boyle Heights. And so I went to the neighborhood there looking for a friend of mine who happened to be from White Fence. He was a family friend. Without thinking, you don't go into a rival turf and think you're going to necessarily escape unscathed. You're entering somebody else. Unless you're escorted in by one of your rivals, then that guy is telling the rest of them, he's with me. You know, even though we're rivals, he's a friend of mine. Yeah. So hands off. Yeah. That wasn't the case. I went on my own, knowing that he was at a dance at a teen center, and I went to seek him out. he wasn't there, and I was instead confronted by a bunch of white fence gang members. Most of them young teenagers like me, but a few of the older guys that were there supervising, and they gave the green light to the youngsters to conduct a Pearl Harbor on me. That's when you rat pack somebody,
right.
We call it Pearl Harbor, right? So they did a Pearl Harbor on me. They busted. I felt 2x4s, beer bottles were busting on my head, and I could taste the intermingle of blood and beer in my mouth, from all the, and all I could do was cover up because it was like an onslaught, and I'm thinking, what an effed up way to go, I'm thinking I'm letting down my neighborhood. I'm thinking of the saddest. I'm thinking of loss of my personal identity, my gang identity, as I'm being beaten by these guys, right? Relentlessly. And then suddenly I heard the voice. I describe it as the voice of an angel. It was a female, a little older than most of us teenagers. And she's yelling at them and saying, "Leave him alone. He knows David. Leave him alone." And little by little, the assault abated. I could feel it abating. And then most of them were drunk. They all came up to me, "I'm sorry." And then one of the young guys, his name was Bobby Loco, he came up to me to shake my hand. And I told him, "That's okay, Holmes. I'm okay." I was stemming the flow of blood, that was coming out of my head. And I just wanted to get out of there. And so I didn't shake his hand. And I just said, "That's okay. That's cool." And I went walking out. I went to my vehicle, started it. My neighborhood is about 5 blocks it's on the other side of the freeway. Mm-hmm. And the guys from my neighborhood were there partying in the circle. So when I drive up, they see me drive up, they greet me, and then they see me get out the car and they see me bloody. And hey, what happened? Who did that? And I told white fence. And I'm looking for the weapons that we had under the artificial turf. And I saw the machete. I go, "That's mine." So everybody's getting a weapon, and we all jump back in the car. We go back, and we attack the dudes from white fence who were still there. And my first homicide was I killed Bobby Loco, a teenager.
So you had rocked him to sleep, as they say, in prison. You'd said, "Hey, it's cool.
Yeah, it's
no
cool.
hard feelings."
Right.
You rocked him to sleep.
Well, yeah.
And you knew, you're like, "I cannot let this stand."
In fact, when I'm driving to my neighborhood, I'm sitting up. I'm sitting up because I don't want to, as I'm driving the car, I don't want a black and white LAPD car see me bleeding and then pull me over to see what's going on. So I remember sitting up so that if a cop came by, they're not going to see the blood, because I wanted to get back to the neighborhood, raise the alarm, come back before the guys left the scene of the jump in, right? So
you got your machete and you run out on these guys. How many of you are there?
There's a carload of us. So there's 1, 2, 3, Speedy, Little Robert, myself, Pete Medina, but I think 5 of us were there. Sammy Rios. So 5 of us. And when we get there, there's a bunch of them. There's, I don't know, half dozen, a dozen, at least a dozen. It's got to be at least a dozen. And some of the women are there, and the music is still playing. And I was the first one in, and I remember stabbing a guy. His name was Fuzzy. They called him Fuzzy from White Fence. A machete is not intended for stabbing. It's intended for chopping. But I did not want to swing the machete because I had my homies coming in behind me. So I used the machete as a stabbing instrument, and which really didn't do a good job. And I did stab him, but not as bad as I could have or should have. And I remember he was blocking himself and yelling. He was in pain. And then the guys rushed upstairs to go after the White Fence guys that were upstairs. So they're battling upstairs. And then when they rushed past me, I went from Fuzzy. I left him on the ground and I went running upstairs. And then one of the I don't remember saying this, but one of the eyewitnesses said they saw a tall white guy. That's me, because I'm light skinned. They saw a tall white guy yelling, "Que viva Barrio Nuevo," long live Barrio Nuevo. And so I guess that's what I was yelling. And when I got up there, the first person I encountered, enemy, was Bobby Loco, the young teenage guy that was part of the crew that jumped me. And so I started swinging at him, got him down, and they said I nearly severed his head off. God. So the other white fence guys went running down the stairs on the other side. The V&E guys were chasing them. So when I went to join in on the chase, I remember looking back. For some reason, I wanted to look back to see what I had done. And I looked back and I was transfixed at his body because it was twitching. It was going through its death throes. And it really was a traumatic experience for me. I had mixed feelings. The next thing I remember, the other guys they ended up getting away. We all ended up that night in Pico Rivera. It's a suburb of LA. And in Pico Rivera, one of my homeboys lived in Pico Rivera. So they had a house party and everybody was congratulating me. The boys, the homeboys and the homegirls. The girls were coming up, hugging and kissing me, and the guys were handshakes and back slaps. I wanted to be alone with my thoughts. You know, I wanted to, because I'd never killed anybody before. So no matter you're caught up in the gang and you think you're bad and all that, but you know what? Until you've killed somebody, you just don't know what it's like, right?
So you knew he was gone.
Yeah.
When you saw his body twitching.
Yeah. I figured he was. You know, and then later I found that was all over the news. You know, that the guy had died.
Was that your intention going into that kind of mob?
My intention was
riot style fight, or are you not
rage.
thinking?
You're not thinking. Yeah, it's rage. It's rage. You wanna hurt somebody. You wanna vent. You wanna harm them. You wanna do great bodily harm. I'm not necessarily thinking 187. Homicide. But that's why I say I was kind of in shock. And the homeboys, I wanted to be alone with my thoughts to process what I had just done. And they wouldn't let me because they were congratulating me and giving me this approval. So they're letting me know it's okay. These are my brothers and sisters telling me it's okay. And so I felt like, wow, this is pretty cool then. I held up the flag for the neighborhood. Then the homies called me to a back room, to a bedroom. And on the bed is a machine gun. And this is when they come back to retaliate against us, we'll be ready.
Wow.
And I remember telling them in a voice that was not my voice. And I mean, I don't remember because I didn't process that way. I said, why wait? Let's hit them again. So we went back and now I got the machine gun. That's how I got the nickname Machine Gun Mundo, right? And we ended up driving near Fresno Park, which belonged to White Fence, and it was dark. We went past the crime scene. The crime scene tape was up. There was nobody there anymore. And we're now parked at the Fresno Park. We figure, well, let's see who shows up. And then all of a sudden, we see a group of guys walking in the dark. They don't see us quite yet, but we see them first. And somebody says, I think that's them right there. So we're waiting. And when they see us, we almost at the same time that we're ready to get out of the car, they see us and they scatter. And I jump out of the car and I open fire with the machine gun. I got somebody in the buttocks, is what I found out later. But I couldn't control it. And so to me, I tattooed the side of a house, which is stupid. I mean, luckily nobody got hit. But that was the last time I ever used a machine gun. Yeah. I said, no. A shotgun, a gun you can control, yes. A machine gun, never again. But they call me Machine Gun Mundo, and to me that was almost like an insult. It was not an insult. It was more like a testimonial of something I couldn't perfect. But the name stuck with me for a few years.
It's so crazy because you're battling and harming other Chicanos who live not only in the same neighborhood as you, 5 blocks from you.
Yeah.
it's pretty remarkable that they had a machine gun in 1968.
Yeah.
Where could they source a machine gun? Like from soldiers coming back from war, or like how did you get a machine gun back in the late 60s?
It was a Thompson. Gang? It was a Thompson 45 caliber.
Wow. With the round drum?
Yes.
That's badass.
But a lot of, to your point, there were weapons that were coming back from Vietnam. They weren't supposed to. They were trophies. Mm-hmm. You know, there were, because Tony Sandoval, my neighbor, I wanted to go to Vietnam so bad, right? And because everybody around me, my family and neighbors, friends were going to Nam. And I remember when I did this homicide, I'm in Tony's house because I'm on the run. I'm in Tony's house and we're smoking weed. It's similar to this venue here. You know, it's a little, with Tony, it was a garage converted into a room. And he had come back from Vietnam. And we're smoking weed, and he tells me, or he asks me, so what war are you fighting? So he's kind of needling me, right? About, because he already heard that I had done this thing against white fence. And I remember telling him something like, take me to Nam, brother. I can bleed red, white, and blue just like you. And so, you know, we were joking when the LA homicide guys busted the doors down, and they got word that I was there. And they arrested me.
How long after the murder did they arrest you?
A couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, they developed their intel on the streets and everything. Then my mom came to visit me in the county jail, showed me the telegram that had just arrived, instructing me to go for my physical to go to Vietnam. You know, I still have the copy of it, right?
Wow.
And
so if you hadn't been locked up, I would have got shipped out.
Yeah.
You got drafted.
Yeah.
Wow. And history would have been completely changed.
Or I could have been dead. I mean, who knows? You know, because they were coming back in body bags almost every day back then. So, I mean, you just never know, but I know that's what I wanted to do. So ironically, from becoming the best that I could be, as the slogan goes for the military, I guess I made a determination to become the worst that I could be from that point on. So that I thought that was the point of no return for me.
After you committed that
After I
murder.
committed that, yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Superpower. I am so fascinated by what this company is doing. Instead of guessing when you go to the doctor and they tell you you feel fine when you really don't, Superpower gives you actual insight into what's going on inside of your body. You can have a licensed professional come to your home or visit a nearby lab, and it's one simple lab test that looks at over 100 biomarkers, way more than a typical checkup. Then these results get broken down into the Superpower app. Things like your heart, metabolism, hormones, vitamins, even things like environmental toxins. And instead of just numbers, they get you an actual plan, like what to do to adjust your lifestyle, when supplements might help, and how to improve over time. You even get your biological age and can track it year after year, which is wild. My biological age is not great. It's about my natural age. I've got to improve that. For me, it's that shift from reacting to problems to actually understand and improving my health before things go wrong. Make this the year you stop guessing about your health with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce their price to just $199, but for a limited time, our listeners get an additional $20 off with code CONNECT, CONNECT. Head to superpower.com and use code CONNECT at checkout for $20 off of your membership. And after you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Make sure to give us some love and tell them that our podcast sent you.
All right, so you charged with first-degree murder?
Well, initially it was just, that's what it was, 187. And then I ended up pleading guilty to an involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah.
And in the audience, I saw one half of the courtroom was my mother and the guys from my neighborhood, from my hood. The other half of the courtroom was Mrs. Lopez, which was my victim's mother, and the guys from White Fence. So the marshals, understanding the gang dynamics, made sure that the gang members never got to each other. And so there was a guy, Bobby Cole. Bobby Cole was from White Fence. And during the proceedings, the pretrial proceedings, from what I hear, the guys from White Fence were in one vehicle, not the mother, and the guys from my neighborhood were in another vehicle on the same freeway heading towards the courtroom or from it. And the White Fence guys attempted to run my guys off the freeway.
Wow.
They ended up crashing instead, and Bobby Cole died in the car wreck.
No shit.
Yeah. And so that was, an event that took place that I found out while the proceedings were taking place. The mother, there was a part of me that wanted to reach out to her and tell her I was sorry and hug her and ask for her forgiveness. But I could never do that for many reasons. Your pride, as a gang member, your homies are looking at you. Besides, that mother probably had no time, no forgiveness, right? She was mourning her son.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a victim because she's losing her son to the system. And I didn't give a shit. When I got sentenced on the plea bargain, I remember cussing out the judge right after he sentenced me. And he said something like, "You need help and a lot of it." And I told him, "You and your white mother." It's what I told him. His face turned red. The bailiffs grabbed me and dragged me out of the courtroom. My mom is crying. Mrs. Lopez is crying for two different reasons. Mrs. Lopez is crying because of the animal that I was.
Mm-hmm.
The animal that killed her son is still not showing remorse and instead is cussing out the judge. My mom is crying because that's her baby, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think about those kind of things, when you're young and dumb.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it.
You just ruined like 4 lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beginning. That's
Right.
that's chicken feed in the world of gangs and all that. Compared to what's going to come, what's going to happen.
That's right.
That's my resume. That becomes my opening job description, if you will,
Yeah.
for what's going to
That's
come
right.
next.
Okay, so how many years were you sentenced to?
At that time, involuntary manslaughter carried 6 months to 15 years.
Oh, good times back then.
Yeah.
6 months.
6 months minimum, which nobody was going to do it.
No.
The median time for something like that would have been about 4, 5, 6 years, depending on your conduct.
Right.
Because they had what they call the indeterminate sentencing law going on at the time. That would later get spoiled much later. So this is in 1969. By January of 1970, I'm already being processed in Chino at the reception center. By March of 1970, I get sent to Soledad. When I get to Soledad, I get involved in a squabble. I become a member of the Latin American culture group. Culture groups are in all the prisons, okay? And there's a lot of good, well-intentioned people that like these groups because they learn about the culture and all that. But a lot of it is exploited by the gangs. And the group we belong to was no different, although we were not yet members of any prison gangs. We were still flying the Mexican flag thing and using the culture group as a way of doing our thing, our little criminal stuff. So we got involved in a confrontation. We attacked. It was a dozen of us attacked a dozen bikers as they were exiting the chow hall. It was a dispute over the ownership rights of a punk, of a homosexual. They claimed him, we claimed ownership, and so we ended up getting down.
So just for people who have no idea how wild that statement is and how much things have changed, you guys wanted rights to a gay guy to turn him out, to
No, actually, in this case, it was to rent him.
To rent him out to other people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That was property back
insane.
Then. A lot of that would happen. And in this case,
it's like he's a prostitute. He's your sex slave.
He's our property. We claim him, he's ours, and we rent him out and if somebody wants to do him, that's fine. They can do him if they want. But They would look at inmates like that as the equivalent of the female. So as long as you were not catching, as long as you were not on the receiving end.
Throwing. You got to be throwing.
You were okay. You got to be the pitcher, not the catcher.
Right, that's right.
So that's the way it worked. And everybody, I don't care.
I'll let you write that down just in case I get locked up again.
Right? No, so that was back then. That changed since then. So, all these guys that, that had their older homeboys, their OGs from whatever barrio they come from, all of them had people that engaged in that. Okay. Wow. But they all try to hide that. It's like a family secret that you don't want to talk about.
Right.
It's taboo. But it happened. I enjoyed making money selling drugs, and we all sold drugs. But some guys, they had kid. They call them kid. That's so and so's kid. So that's like saying that's his wife or his girlfriend, so to speak. But that was
a real racket in prison. So now, and does this homosexual, this girl, is he under threat of violence? Is why he complies? I assume
50-50. Half of them are just weaklings that submit and understand that if they don't comply, something's going to happen to them. And the other half become flagrant queens, so to speak.
Right.
They think they're girls, or they're playing the role of a girl. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I feel like that happens much less in today's day and age in prison.
Of course.
Is that because it's more taboo than it was back then, even though now we're supposed to be this like much more liberal and open society? But I feel
prison
like if
is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, prison's a different animal. As it has evolved, there's a lot of things that they improved on, morally speaking, that were acceptable before.
Right.
And does not reflect the woke society that we live in.
Right.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges almost.
When you became a member of the Mexican Mafia, when you were there in the early stages of its etymology, its growth, was that a practice that they put a stop to?
No, that continued on. This happened after I left. Mexican Mafia was conceived, the Mexican Mafia was formed in 1957 at DVI by youth authority wards. I rubbed elbows with all of them, but later on.
Right.
I did not become a member until 13 years later, 1970. Oh, okay. So I knew all the OGs, but you asked me off camera about Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan was older in age than all the Mexican Mafia members that formed the initial core group. But he didn't even get in until 68, 69 in Folsom.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how far back La EME actually went. So this goes back to the 50s.
57.
And had it grown when you first got to Soledad, you were doing your bid for murder. Right. How strong were they as a presence in the California state system?
They were very strong. They were predominantly strong in San Quentin and Folsom Prison. Okay, then you had another group that was starting to come up. A lot of Chicanos resented the fact that the Mexican Mafia was pressuring their own. They were an equal opportunity exploiter, if you will.
Right.
And so many fellow Mexican inmates suffered at their wrath. So another gang came into existence, and this came into existence in 65, even before I entered as an adult. And that was the Nuestra Familia.
Right, the Northerners.
And it wasn't a Northern and Southern thing back then.
Oh.
Most of the Nuestra Familia members that when they came into existence were from Los Angeles, San Diego, or Central California, cities like Oxnard, Santa Barbara, and Bakersfield. There was nobody from Northern California. In fact, there were more Northern California gang members in the Mexican Mafia than there were from the NF in the first 5 years of the NF's existence. Okay. So as the way everything evolved, the Nuestra Familia prison gang could not embrace the LA gang members the way the Mexican Mafia did. So they sold the bill of goods to Northern California inmates. Hey, we got to resist the boogeyman, blah, 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 or else. And They they kind of fell prey to the Kool-Aid. They drank the Kool-Aid, and then they became. And so that's where the polarization of North and South.
I see.
That took place, I think, around 73.
Okay.
You know, after 73, when they separated the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican Mafia. And remember, nothing to do with North and South.
Yeah.
When you hear about the Shoe War, that's one of my books. I write about it. The Shoe War had nothing to do with North and South. People say, well, that's where the North and South began. No, it didn't. That's when the Nuestra Familia and disgruntled gang members got off on the remaining 4 members of the Mexican Mafia on the San Quentin yard. But North and South was still not a thing.
Right.
We still had a lot of associates from Northern California. We had, I think I'm working on an episode. We had 8 members that were from Northern California. Of the 150, membership at the time,
right.
8 of them were from Northern Cal. So we didn't discriminate by region or anything like that. They were not inferior to us.
Right.
They had quality guys just like any gang in Southern Cal. But it was a phenomenon that occurred, and I became part of that picture as well.
I see. Okay, fascinating. So, but when you go in 69, 70, the split, the rivalry between NF and La EME hasn't happened yet.
That's happened.
Oh, that has happened.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're beefing. They're actively
beefing, but it's not a North and South thing.
Right. Understood. Yeah. Okay. It only becomes that later.
Later. Yeah.
So going back to this first riot, you're not part of La EME yet. You're running with this cultural group that basically is masking for, your guys' rackets.
In Soledad,
Yeah, in Soledad. It's a badass prison, especially back then. Yeah. What happened in that riot? You go to war against the bikers.
Yeah. No, we went to war. They took all the knives because a prison guard was killed. Officer Scholl had been killed in Unit 1, the other side of Soledad North. And the Black Guerrilla family were in the process of retaliating against prison guards for 3 of their guys that were killed on the yard in a riot in Owing, in the adjustment center. So the National Guard came in, they had metal detectors, and they took all the shanks. So we had to improvise. I remember Leo from Ochentas had a Jergens bottle, and he used the jagged edge of the bottle as a weapon. And I put soap, I think 3 bars of soap in a sock, and use that as a club, a soap sock, right? Use that as a club. So we all improvised. Nobody had shanks. The bikers didn't have shanks either, and we met up. It's kind of like the OK Corral, just
for sure.
They're walking out of the mess hall. We're walking down the street where the vehicles go, and I remember I'm the one that walked up to their main guy, like I was going to talk, and I'm doing something with my hand over here to get him distracted, and I pull out the soap sock, let him have it, and then it's on. And now there were people, you know how in the comment section, you get people that talk smack, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
I Mundo up.
Yeah. Mundo did this. And so there are people that are saying Mundo ran, and I'm laughing because they're right. I did run, right? But not not the way they term it. I had said somewhere about how I ran. Well, here's what happened. So there's about a dozen of them, a dozen of us, and we're doing our thing, boom, boom. The guy I'm hitting, he's unconscious. I've knocked him out. And I'm still hitting him. I was like in a zone. I was not aware that the guys from my side, once they had finished attacking, they took off running back to the units, and we were surrounded, or I was surrounded by khaki, because these are all prison guards, right? And I'm hitting this guy, and I hear whistles blowing, and I see the khaki around me. I go, oh shit, I'm the only one left. So I swung the sock, kind of like haphazardly, and a couple of the guards backed up, and I let it go, and I took off running to Whitney Hall, right? I walk into the hall, and I still have the right of the 115. It's a disciplinary report. And I go into Shiner's cell, Shiner from White Fence, and I'm in the process of changing. He had given me another shirt or whatever, and these officers, I guess one of the officers pointed and said he went into that cell. So they came in and saw me in the process of changing clothes to change my identity, whatever, and they gaffled me up and they locked me up. So nobody died, just a beat down kind of thing. And I went to disciplinary, and then they kicked a bunch of us out. They wanted us out of there because they were dealing with a dead officer.
Right.
They were still dealing with that case. They just wanted all of us out of there. They didn't want anybody that's involved in violence. So that's when I got to San Quentin, I mistakenly said at one time that I was the youngest guy in San Quentin at that time. I was the second youngest.
Wow.
Because one of the guys that was with us in that beatdown was Leaky. Leaky was became an NF member. And Leaky was the youngest. He was younger than me by, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something like that. So I was the second youngest. I still hadn't turned 21.
Wow.
And,
San Quentin in 1970, 71?
70, yeah.
I mean, it must have been incredible.
It was fun. And it was, you got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no cameras. There's, the guards were surviving as well. We got away with stuff. People, I don't know how true it was, but we were told by some of the correctional officers that evidence had been intentionally misplaced. And then we'd come to find out that district attorney would not prosecute because the evidence was misplaced.
What do you mean, prosecute on what?
On cases.
Okay.
Yeah, there were different cases. I got picked up for there were 2 homicides that took place, and as I talk about a lot of things, there's a lot of things I'm not going to talk about because obviously there's no statute of limitations on certain crimes. When my prison time was up, I got away with 6 homicides that I committed that I was never picked up for.
And that was in San Quentin?
That was in different
various prisons, of course, that you're not going to specify.
No, yeah.
Can you talk about the first homicide you committed in prison that you have proffered?
There is none. There is none in prison that have been adjudicated.
I understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all I'm telling you is this, and then you can figure it out however you want to.
Sure.
Or you can read between the lines or whatever. So I'm picked up as a suspect in 2 homicides in Soledad. I had blood on my pants of the victim, allegedly, according to the paperwork. I still have the rejection from, Monterey County District Attorney's Office declining to prosecute because there was insufficient evidence to go forward.
Wow.
Cases are hard. It is very difficult. That's why I say we had fun. Everybody was having fun.
Right.
Because prosecutors had a hard time, unless you had inmate eyewitnesses and staff eyewitnesses willing to come forward and testify to what they saw. You had self-defense.
Right.
Was always a defense that was used by inmates.
Right.
And if both inmates are scratched up, it's a plausible defense enough to raise reasonable doubt.
Right.
So you had, as a result, a lot of prosecutors refused to prosecute.
Didn't want to pick it up.
So.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's #1 online therapy platform. That is where I have been going to see a therapist for years now. BetterHelp has over 30,000 licensed therapists and has helped over 6 million people worldwide. They match you with a therapist based on your needs, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/connect. That's betterhelp.com/connect. One more time, that's betterhelp.com/connect.
Now, were you a suspect? Was that the same stretch in Soledad, your first stretch?
Yeah.
The same time period?
No, it was another time period.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I'm picked up there as a suspect. And then I'm picked up again in San Quentin as a suspect. There were 2 homicides, and this was against the Black Guerrilla family. Okay. So in that one, you had a goon squad officer who He's now deceased, but I still won't mention his name because he has family. But he told us, me and Black Dan. Black Dan was the suspect in one of the BGF guys that was killed, and I was a suspect in the other one. And when they came up, the goon squad came up to search everybody's cell. And when they got to our cell, they had us handcuffed on the rail in B section in the lockup unit. And he's telling us, this officer is telling us, next time you guys do something like this, let me know so I can get up on the gun rail. In other words, inferring that he wanted to shoot blacks, right?
Right.
And I remember telling him, okay, yeah, no problem. But between Black Dan and I'm telling Dad, shit, we would never do that.
No.
Because we don't need a law enforcement guy, a prison guard, to take out one of our enemies' targets.
Right.
If we're going to do it, we're going to do it because we want the glory.
Right.
We don't need somebody else to do that, right?
Plus, you're telling on yourself.
Yeah, kind of thing. We're collaborating with them. Yeah. And then what if they end up killing one of our guys? Mm-hmm. So it's like, no. Right. Just tell them whatever they makes them feel good, and that's it.
Right.
Well, he comes one day and he tells us a story. He says, in the goon squad office, we have two lockers. One is an evidence locker and one is a contraband locker. They're separate. The contraband locker is contraband that we find that we cannot assign to any inmate. Shanks, drugs, whatever. It's contraband. So we can't tag those, so we dump them in the bay once a month. The evidence locker, those are tagged, and they're assigned to certain inmates waiting for the district attorney of Marin County to accept them for prosecution. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes evidence against a particular inmate. He says, well, a funny thing happened the other day, and somebody, and I don't know who, mistakenly threw away the evidence locker thinking it was the contraband locker, right? And then he winked and walked away.
Wow.
And we're like, what do you think? In Spanish, we're talking to each other. What do you think? We'll find out. We get letters from Marin County that the prosecution had been declined for lack of, because the evidence had been misplaced.
Oh my God.
So you talk about credence, right? Confirmation.
Talk about corruption.
But it happened, and it wasn't restricted to white guards. Black guards are doing the same thing,
right.
Setting up targets for BGF and black inmates.
Right.
I mean, you hear this thing about, the white system is against the minorities or the blacks or whatever. It was equal opportunity. It happened to everybody.
That's amazing.
But you welcome that. In other words, the way we looked at it was this way. If you put us against superior numbers, that's fine. We know we just have to make sure we get off first. Mm-hmm. We're not going to give them time to, group and form a plan, whatever. The best defense is a good offense.
Sure.
That's the way we looked at it. But if you set us up 1 against 10 and one of our guys ends up getting killed, then don't be surprised if we target staff. Mm. See, and so that never happened with us, but it did happen with the BGF.
Right.
They went out to the yard. They were to have, all they were doing was fist fighting in the O-Wing yard against the Aryan Brotherhood. And in the middle of that fist fight, a white guard fired, I think, 4 shots.
Yeah.
3 of them killed 3 black inmates.
Oof.
The 4th bullet, according to A.B. Buzzard, was intended for a 4th black inmate who slipped and fell, and the bullet instead hit Buzzard and knocked out one of his testicles. So I nicknamed him One Nut Buzzard when I met up with him in B section. And but anyway, it was funny.
Is that Soledad? Or
that happened
Quentin?
in Soledad.
Okay.
I think it was January 1970, right around there.
The demographics at that time in these level 4 California prisons, was it mostly black, or how did the Latinos match up to the other races?
It's about the same. Yeah, level 4, mostly. See, the whites, were really they came a long way. Majority of white inmates were not super aggressive. That's why when the Aryan Brotherhood and those tough guys from that prison gang, when they emerged, those guys rocked and rolled, but they were a small percentage of the white population, the get down white guys.
Right.
Now you have more white guys. They've harnessed somehow, and now you have more whites that are aggressive than back in my day. They were a small percentage, or vastly outnumbered by the blacks, and that's why they had their problem with the blacks.
Right.
Our problem with blacks had nothing to do with numbers, because we had equal numbers. Ours had more to do with power and who was going to be the big dog on the yard. So that's why we always bumped heads with the blacks. I did not have a racist bone in my body. I hated the BGF as much as I hated the NF.
Right.
NF was Mexican.
Yeah.
So my race is against Mexican? No.
Right.
It's a gang thing. See, when you get involved in gang, look at the LA gangs. The Mexicans killing Mexicans.
Sure.
You know, blacks killing blacks. You know, so it's 99%. Even though their ideology, you hear the AB guys talking about Heil Hitler, white power, blah, blah, blah. That's a rallying cry. That's a way to harness the white energy. And they become racist because they start believing that kind of ideology. But in their heart of hearts, they're not racist, even as bad guys. They're not racist against blacks. Blacks are not racist against Mexicans, and we were not racist against blacks for the most part.
Right.
But it's something that unified us.
Totally. It's like propaganda.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did you go? You're getting stripes. You're involved in homicides and what is your prison hustle? What kind of hustles? You said you were into drugs.
Yeah, we had plenty of that coming in from the outside. Drugs.
What kind of drugs in the early 70s?
It was heroin. That was our main moneymaker there.
Okay.
In fact, that's the only thing I messed with.
Wow.
And the guys. I never got, I wasn't a user. I think I injected maybe 3 or 4 times. Didn't like it.
Right.
But I can tell you we were sick puppies. What I mean by that is we enjoyed San Quentin was like a big city. Folsom, I got to Folsom, but it was always in lockup in 4A. So I wanted to go back, and would go back to San Quentin where I could go to the yard eventually, and it was a big city. I mean, we had Pruno. We would make White Lightning. We'd make Pruno was wine, prison wine, where you get fruit and you let it cook. You had guys that did that, and then we'd get drunk.
Yeah.
We'd love it. And so, but we were sick puppies because, we really, rather than aspire to get out and do something productive, even if it was criminal, we loved being in prison.
Yeah.
It was fun. And there was something that just came to mind as I was thinking of San Quentin. Have you ever heard the expression dead man walking?
Of course.
Okay, dead man walking, whenever they would escort an inmate from death row to, say, the visiting room, they would bring them down off of death row and they'd escort them across the upper yard and then over to the visiting area. And the officers would say, dead man walking, so telling the yard to clear. And the gun rail is standing there supervising, making sure that all the inmates back off while they escort the guys to the thing, right? Well, they changed that afterwards because somebody must have complained. And they went from dead man walking to condemned man walking. And then, I don't know, now they come up with something else. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, something more politically correct.
Yeah, they adjusted to the times.
Think about how archaic and brutal that is. We have a dead man walking, but it's accurate.
Not only is it accurate, but I think about all of us. We were all dead men walking.
Yeah.
Especially the prison gang guys, the Nuestra Familia, the Mexican Mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, the Black Guerrilla family. We did not think.
There's no future.
There's no future. You're not thinking about living or dying. You know what I mean? You're the test. You hear about street gang members Yes, they're dangerous. Yes, they're out there pulling triggers. I say, the real test is when you get to prison. Right. When you get to prison, that's when you discover, is this guy really who he really is? Mm-hmm. On the streets, anybody can pull a trigger. My little sister can pull a trigger. You get an automatic weapon and you're King Kong. You could be a little 5-footer, and you're shooting up all these big monsters and stuff. You got that equalizer. Mm-hmm. You get in prison, it's a different game altogether. Sometimes you're outnumbered, sometimes you outnumber. One-on-one, knife fights, it's on. And
the second time you killed somebody, so the first time you dropped somebody in prison, right? So this is your second homicide. You had one out on the street where you almost severed the guy's head with a machete. Right. Now you're in prison, right up on somebody.
There's several after that.
How did that feel? Like, did it become easier? Like, what was the difference between killing somebody in prison versus that first life that you took?
It was like an out-of-body. It started becoming like an out-of-body. When I say we became sick, you become desensitized. You become... there was an incident where I'm on a victim and I'm looking through a window where there's a group of inmates congregated, and I made direct eye contact with one of the guys. And I remember he was a Sureno. We didn't call him Surenos back then. I'm using today's terminology to describe back then. He was a Mexican Mafia associate. Okay. And I made eye contact with him as it's like an out of body. It's almost like I'm looking at myself, take out my victim, and looking at the people that are looking like a shock and awe from that location, looking to where we're at. And I made a direct eye contact with this one guy, and I got away, as I got away on all of them. And when I ran into this guy in the unit, he made it a point to come up to me and tell me I didn't see nothing. Right?
Yeah.
I said, cool, keep
Smart.
it that way. Yeah. And I trusted him. Later, he would hold shanks for us. He would hollow out a broom, like the broom to sweep his room. He hollowed it out and put a steel rod inside and then taped it together and then painted it. Yeah. So, he would hold shanks for us.
What were these beefs, these hits? Why did they have to happen in your mind?
Well, a lot of them are different. A lot of the hits that take place behind bars, all of them have there were gang-related beefs involving guys that are members of gangs or associates of gangs.
Inner group, like yes. inner beef.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also targets, people who haven't paid debts, whatever. Right. And besides the ones that I was involved in personally, as I say, I got desensitized as it went on. I was a co-conspirator in I don't know how many more. Participating in creating distractions, helping get rid of the shank at the end. There's so many different ways when you're setting up targets to hit them. And so all of that became part and parcel of our job. That's our job. Yeah. That's what we do. And now we take this to the streets. 1975, they introduced a bill called the Nedjali Bill that converted, unless you had a life sentence, every sentence would be converted to a determinate sentence. So my 6 to 15, when they factored and figured everything out, I think it was converted into a 6-year term, which meant I was immediately eligible. I received what was called a RUAP, Release Upon Approval of Parole Plans. So many of us received RUAPs. Bunch of us got paroled, dozens of us. So the streets of California were flooded with prison gang guys. Wow. And the murders were taking place Northern California. You had the NF doing their thing, BGF. You had Doc Holliday, Ray, Browning, Mexican Mafia, we were all over the place.
This episode is sponsored by Hims. You guys have heard me talk ad nauseum about the benefits of Hims. If you guys are struggling with erectile dysfunction, okay, there's only so many excuses that you can give your lady. Eventually, she's going to think you're cheating on her, okay? And we don't want that, whether that's the case or not. That's between you and God. Eventually, you're going to need to confront this problem head on, and Hims is there when you are ready. Hims will connect you with a licensed healthcare provider online so you can get access to ED treatment from home. You just fill out a quick intake, a provider reviews it, and if treatment makes sense, it gets shipped straight to your door. It's that easy. They offer options like sildenafil, which is the generic version of Viagra, and it can be way more affordable than the brand name. Not can be, will be, I promise you that. And if it's not the right fit, they've got other options too. So it's really about finding out what works best for you. It's straightforward, it's simple, and it takes away a lot of that friction that keeps people from taking action. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care, not just for ED, by the way, for hair loss, for weight loss, and so much more, visit hims.com/connect. That's hims.com/CONNECT for your free online visit. hims.com/connect. You guys will not regret it. Prescription is required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris, Specialty LLC. Hims is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris.
Now, by 1975, when you got released off of your first bid, had you already joined the Mexican Mafia?
1970 is when I joined.
Okay.
In San Quentin.
Okay, great. Tell us about that process, how you, after you got in a bunch of tickets for fighting at Soledad, you got shot off to San Quentin.
Yeah.
How did you join? How did you get, tell us about that process.
Yeah, the process. I arrived in September of 1970. I had already met some of the Mexican Mafia guys. I met Topo Peters. I met Bevito Alvarez, Güero Psycho Rodriguez. They were in the lockup unit. Bevito had killed a black guy in Soledad. So Topo and Güero Psycho had been subpoenaed to testify as character witnesses in his case. That's a ploy we would use all the time to get inmates down to give them a bus ride. And so I met them in O-Wing in the lockup unit while I was waiting adjudication to get transferred to San Quentin. And they kind of schooled me on the dynamics of what was going on. I didn't know there was a Mexican Mafia and Nuestra Familia conflict going on. Right. I didn't know that the shoe war had taken place. Somewhere I might have heard of it, but it didn't really affect most of the guys, regular guys. Today would be different because you got the North and South and all that stuff going on. So when I transfer to San Quentin, that was September. September of 1970 is when I arrived. There's a lot of guys there that had already been transferred from Soledad, from that beef with the bikers, and I meet them. So I start hanging out, making myself available with guys from the Mexican Mafia that I had met. Actually, I take that back. I met them after they got out. There were a lot of LA guys there, and we got together to assist. We had a petition made up to get the Mexican Mafia guys released to the yard. There was a lot of people that did not want them walking the yard. Most of it was staff. Sergeant Hankins, he was the institutional gang investigator, did not want a Mexican Mafia member on the yard because the yard was populated mostly by Nuestra Familia members as far as prison gang element. Mm-hmm. But there were more LA guys, but they were not involved in the politics of the prison gangs. So some of us looked at this like, wait a minute, why would you guys not want Mexican Mafia if you're all Chicanos? It's the way, remember, I came from the mentality of Chicanos stick together now. We're in jail, so why, not understanding fully the dynamics, right? But I did get a little preview. So now we're throwing it at these guys from the NF. Why won't you sign the petition? They're Chicanos. You mean you want to keep them locked up? That's messed up. That's almost like you're not snitching on them, but you're you should welcome them. If you want to have a confrontation with them, sign the petition, let them out, and go to work. Right? And so they still wouldn't sign it. Nah, we don't want to get involved, whatever. One day, one member did come out. That was Big Mike. Big Mike, NF guys, and another gang, Maravilla, they asked Mike to meet with them. So they had a little powwow in the yard, and they agreed to a truce or ceasefire, lack of hostilities kind of thing. So now, within a month and a half, 2 months after that, Mike recruits some of us, and I became one of the recruits.
Wow.
And so after that is when the madness, we're young, we're dumb, we want to prove ourselves.
And are you an associate, or when you say recruit?
Now I was an associate.
I see.
When I met him and he was grooming me.
Okay.
When they groom you, I compare it to a courtship. You're dating a girl.
Right.
You're putting your best foot forward. And then when it's time to propose to her, you kind of know after dating her enough that she's going to say yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with this. They kind of piecemeal information, like who the enemies are, the Mexican Mafia, blah, blah, blah. And they start giving you inside scoop because they're embracing you. And in the meantime, they've circulated your name to the other prisons. Back then, that's how they did it. They'd send your name to the other prisons. So Mundo from VNE, okay? Probably half the guys didn't even know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that did could vote yes, no, or defer to the sponsor. Deferring to the sponsor is the same as a yes vote.
Mm-hmm.
One no vote nullifies membership. You cannot get in if one person says no. So all my votes came back yes or defer to the sponsor. So on the day that I was recruited, Big Mike and Matt Korean were on the yard, the upper yard. Big Mike motioned for me as I'm walking on the yard. I go over to them, and he tells me the word has been circulated. And I was kind of expecting it, like a proposal, right? And then he said the basic rules, you can't, the EME comes first, there's no way out. The only way out of the organization is to die, And then Matt Korean said, it's not like joining a club or a biker gang. I remember him saying that. He says, when you're in, you're in. So he was impressing that on me. I said, sure, I get it. And so it's okay. Then as this point forward, you're a brother. You're a carnal. And then they hug me, shake my hand, and then they send me to different parts of the prison. See, you don't get a bunch of brothers in one prison yard and do it, because then the intelligence officers, they'll just add you to their list.
Right.
Oh, it looks like they just made another one.
Yeah.
So the way they would do it is he'd say, go to the gym and go to the equipment room, and Rock On Lou will be there, Louis Lopez. So I went to the equipment room, and when he saw me coming, he had a big smile on his face. He already knew. He had already participated in the upvote. And so, I walk up to him, he hugs me, welcome aboard, Cardinal, this, that. And so that's how I met the other brothers that had been in before me.
Okay.
So from that point forward, see, there is no, one of the misnomers is that you have to kill to get in. Most of us already had that criminal resume. Most of us have already killed on a different level. Mm-hmm. And so, but it isn't a prerequisite. But one thing is guaranteed. Once you become a member, you will have opportunities and you will kill for the organization. Otherwise, your time is limited. And
you can't deny an order.
No.
Right?
Oh, no. Even if it's under the gun tower or whatever, those are called suicide attacks.
Right.
That was part and parcel of what we did. But once you are in, there is no turning back. And I felt like I had climbed the top of Mount Everest. I made it to the big time. Man, I was so heady, so proud. It would be like maybe my son going to the Marines. You know what I'm saying? or joining the Marines, is something
You're the elite.
elite, special forces,
Yeah.
whatever, the gang of gangs. I was, top of the heap.
Now, it seems like the Mexican Mafia today is very, very elite. Like it's very difficult to actually be a member. There's so many subgroups that do their bidding, but most of them are locked behind the wall in the SHU in Pelican Bay, or they're in the feds. Back then, was it easier? Was it less exclusive to become a member of La EME back in the day as opposed to now?
It's probably a little more difficult today, and I'll tell you why. Not that it was loose back then, but as time has gone by, and now you have the harnessing and the dividing of the gangs, and for tax purposes and for drug selling purposes, so for generating revenue, you have brothers, kind of think of the 5 families in New York.
Right.
So they're divvied up. The sections are divvied up into the different families. Well, you got a similar kind of thing going on with these guys. And so now, why do you need to share that pie with too many extra people? Now, people die, people turn, and a lot of these things happen as time goes by. And so you do need to recruit new blood, and they are doing that, recruiting new blood. But the one of the differences between before and now is that 99.9% of the time, we killed our own targets. We never used, I shouldn't say never, but because I said 99.9, right? We never utilized Surenos or gang members or anybody like that to do hits for us. We did our own hits.
Yeah.
Does that mean we were meaner and tougher and badder than this generation? No. All it means is these guys are probably smarter, criminally speaking.
Right.
And we looked at it like, if we use a street gang member to do a hit for us, we're going to have to kill him because he knows too much, right? And so we still, our minds are still kind of like in prison, and we would kind of challenge each other. Come on, let's go take care of this. Boom. We just assumed this was our job to do. So I was tied to the first 3 homicides or hits that were committed by gang members on behalf of the Mexican Mafia. The first one was by accident. I used the female to locate 2 targets in Bakersfield. Woodsy was a member of the Nuestra Familia, and his brother Ronnie. Woodsy's name was Danny Reyes, and his brother Ronnie were the 2 victims when it was all said and done.
And this is out on the street?
Out on the street.
And this is after you got out in
75.
75, okay.
And so that was my last. I participated in several other many homicides, street related, and then this is the one I ended up getting arrested for. So I used Gloria Perez, Cyclona, female gang member from Bakersfield, and she's a sister of a Mexican Mafia member. And I called her in Bakersfield. This is before cell phones, and I asked her to locate 3 targets that we coveted. One of them was Woodsy Reyes. So the other 2, when I called back to check on her, she could not locate all 3 targets. She located Woodsy Reyes, and when I called to check in on her, and she told us that that's who she had, we went up, Sailor and I. Sailor was my crime partner, also my homeboy, same neighborhood. We went up, and we used her to get the door open because one of the brothers had the hots for her, and that was Ronnie. So she gets the door open. Ronnie lets her in. Sailor goes in with her, throws down on him. I get out of the car. I was the last one because Woodsy knew me on sight. So that's why I waited in case, so he wouldn't recognize my face. So when I get out and go into the house, we question Ronnie because Woodsy's not there. So we question his brother. And where's Woodsy? Well, he went out on a date, and he'll be back later today. And so, one of the things you do when you hit a house for any reason, including a homicide, is you determine if there's any drugs, money, or weapons to take. And so we questioned him. He said, no. And we ended up, we're going to kill Woodsy, so we got to kill him. So we stabbed him to death and left him in bed and waited. Now, this is uncharted waters for us because what we would do when we would kill people, we isolated our targets to avoid collateral damage. We weren't into killing families or stuff like that. That was like, wasn't a rule, but it was an unwritten rule. You know,
you guys weren't doing drive-by shootings and all that crazy shit.
No, that wasn't. That's not how we rolled. So now the uncharted water part is when Woodsy arrives, when he comes home. What if he brings his mother and a bunch of family members with him? What are we going to do?
Right.
They're adults. They're eyewitnesses. You can't kill him. You already got a body in the other room. You can't leave adult eyewitnesses. So we were just hoping that he wouldn't come home with an adult. Finally, after several hours, we hear a car drive up. Cyclona was pointing while we were, searching the house. And she tells us there's a car coming. So there's a girl with him, a female, his date. And we saw that. So I told Sailor I had to think fast. I said, when they're in the house and the door closes behind them, you grab Woodsy, take him somewhere. I'll take care of the girl. Okay. So I could hear him giggling. I could hear keys turning into the door. The door opens. The door closes. They lock it. Then we come out from our concealment. Sailor has a gun pointed at Woodsy, snatches him. He protests, but he steers him away. My gun is pointed at the female, and her eyes immediately went to the gun. I'm following her eyes. And I leaped forward. I covered her eyes and lowered her head. She's whimpering, and I'm talking to her and telling her, nobody's going to hurt you. Do not look up. Do not look at me. And I steer her to another room. And again, she's trembling out of fear. I don't blame her. And the first thing I did was blindfold her, so she couldn't see me for sure. Then I gagged her. There was some socks. I put a sock in her mouth, and then I gagged her mouth. Then I tied her to the chair, and I assured her nothing was going to happen to her. I said, we're here to visit your boyfriend. We're not here for you. So just calm down. Everything's going to be fine. You understand this? She says, yes. I mean, she nodded, that she understood. And so go to the other room, and he's got handcuffs on Woodsy. He's seated, and I ask him, okay, where's the guns? Ain't got no guns. The drugs, money, same thing, right? And he said, I ain't got no. Where's my brother? I said, you're gonna be seeing him pretty soon. Smart ass, right? His brother was already dead. And
before we go any further, what was the purpose of this? Was this just a robbery, or did this guy violate? Was he also a member of the Mexican Mafia?
No. He was. I told you he was a member of the Nuestra Familia.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So this is just a rival.
Well, not just. There was a Mexican Mafia member in the rivalry between the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican Mafia from 1957. Again, NF didn't come into existence until 65. Until that time frame, that's 1975, the only Mexican Mafia member that had been killed by the NF was Cheyenne Cadena in Palm Hall. In the movie American Me, you see the part where Edward James Olmos is killed. Okay, and he's tossed off the chair. Well, in real life, the NF killed him. That was in the movie. They had us killing him.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But in real life, it was the rival Nuestra Familia that killed him. So he was the only guy that had been killed, a made member that had been killed by the opposing gang. So we took that to heart. And Woodsy, in prison, had been making statements that Cheyenne was begging for his life before he died, right? He was doing it to be a jerk, right? Only, because that didn't happen. But he was doing that to be a jerk and this and that. So I vowed that when I got out, I was going to hunt him. I was going to find him. I was going to hunt him down and take him out.
Wow.
So
you've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
For years. What year is this taking place now at Woodsy's house?
Cheyenne was killed in December 72. His mouthing off took place around 73. And in October of 75 is when we're taking him out.
Okay, so this is the same year you're released.
Yeah.
You wasted no time.
Yeah. We wasted no time. And the last words he heard was Cheyenne sends his regards. So that was like a rallying cry, so to speak. Now, normally, we would not have hunted down NF members. They're doing their thing now. We're doing our thing, conducting our business. But this guy was a special case. Yeah, that was just special. And so Gloria Cyclona, this is why I say I'm connecting myself to the three street gang members. When I end up firing, there's one bullet left in the gun. I hand it to Sailor, and Gloria starts spitting on Woodsy, and his voice is fading away. In fact, when I did the 60 Minutes interview, I described it as his voice was fading away, kind of like the Wicked Witch in the Wizard of Oz when she was melting. And that's the way I remember.
Where did you shoot him?
In the torso, and so he was dying still.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an immediate death.
Yeah.
So he was dying, and he said, "Don't shoot me anymore. I'm dying." And then his voice begins to fade, and Gloria starts kicking and spitting him, right? And Sailor tells Gloria, "There's one bullet. Stop all that. There's one bullet left. Go ahead and do it the right way." So she fires one more bullet into his dying body. So technically, she's the first gang member to participate in a Mexican Mafia related execution. That was that murder there. My brother, a year later, while I was in custody, was used by Joe Morgan in another hit. And then I used another guy later on in yet a third hit. But
did you leave, going back to Woodsy's house, did you leave his girlfriend alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because in my estimation, she didn't look at us. I followed her eyes.
Yeah.
From the time they walked in, hoping for her sake. I didn't want to. What glory is there in killing an innocent young female? She was 19 years old, I believe.
Right.
What glory is there in something like? Of course, I know if I got to do it, I got to do it. I don't want to do it. It's just the way the circumstances played out. And as it turns out, my estimation is that she didn't see anything. So I got teased and kind of ridiculed in a playful way by the fellas. They said I was a sucker for a skirt, because I let her live. I said, no. That was calculated. I saw that she didn't see. And then sure enough, when she testified on the stand, she couldn't identify anybody.
Okay, so after that, this is in Bakersfield, you shoot back to your turf. And when you paroled, are you now back in East LA, back in the old set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how has life changed now that you're back on the street and you're a made guy in the Mexican Mafia? How's it different from the days of E&E and?
Oh, yeah, it's so much different because now we're big homies. They had a function about a week after we got out. I say week, a sailor got out right after I did. We went to the neighborhood to this annual function that they had, and they were treating us like celebrities. We got the big homie red carpet treatment, this and that, and it's like, wow, where did that come from? Well, they know we're EME, right? And we weren't used to that. But we were more concerned with. We hooked up with Joe Morgan, and we wanted to get operations going on the streets.
Right.
Drug operations.
Right.
So Joe had secured a connection, Chuy Araujo from south of the border, who was the head of the Araujo family. Today, of course, they call them cartels.
Right.
Back then, they called them families.
Right.
And that's what Chewy was, the head of that family.
Based out of Tijuana? Okay. And this is for heroin?
For heroin and cocaine. Mostly heroin, although cocaine was available at our request. We didn't have the customer base at that time yet.
Because it was so expensive.
And it was the rich man's high,
Yeah.
as they called it.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, we were working with Chewy to supply brothers in, of course, in Southern Cal and in Northern Cal, because we had Visalia, we had Hayward, we had members in San Francisco, and I formed have you ever heard of Murder Incorporated?
Yes.
It's an old Italian squad of guys that were killers. Well, I formed the equivalent of that. I called it like the inner circle. Mm-hmm. It was Sailor, myself, Alfie joined us, and our responsibility, which I defined it, was to take out anybody who resisted selling our dope. We went systematically to the local drug dealers
Right.
in the Mexican neighborhoods,
Yeah.
because that was our familiarity.
Right.
We went to the Mexican neighborhoods and approached them and like a traveling salesman.
Yeah.
You know, letting them know this is our product. You're going to be selling it for us, and just about everybody complied.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't comply, we could have broke their leg. We could have threatened them. We could have done that. We killed them on the spot.
Wow.
We figured, hey, we replace them right away. The word gets out.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
this is real.
Wow. So that's very much a cartel move, because that's exactly what Mexican cartels do in Mexico today.
Right.
They have big drug markets in every city, but especially the major cities. There's a huge internal demand for narcotics. And yeah, they say here, nobody's selling meth in Matamoros. It's only coke. And you'll get killed if you don't.
Think about this, Johnny. The DNA of extreme criminals. I don't care if you're cartel, mob, biker, prison gang, whatever you want to call it. If you're involved in criminal activity and you have a gang, you're going to have a very extreme element. People like us, not everybody specialized in hits. I was a specialist. Mm-hmm. I was good at that. And I was desensitized.
Right.
I mean, we loved the Dodgers, as you could tell by my hat, right? This isn't for me, it's not a gang thing. For me, that's a team I've supported since 1958 when they moved from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
And so there were two occasions that I can distinctly remember where we were inside residences of two different targets that we were going to kill. And I don't know, one of them we were looking for drugs that we knew were in the house, and the other one I can't remember what we still hadn't found yet, and why we were tearing, getting the job done. But I remember Sailor reminding me that we had to beat traffic to get to batting practice, right?
Such an LA thing. Such
Right?
an LA move.
Yeah. And
Hurry
so-
up and do it, because we gotta get on the 5.
That would accelerate the process of taking out our targets to get on the 5, to get to the friggin' Dodger Stadium to watch batting practice.
Oh my God.
And then we're eating a Dodger dog, and we're talking about the expression on the victim's face when he died. Did you see the way he reacted? Did you see this and that? And see, at the time, that's just normal conversation. It's like you and I talking about the weather.
Right.
But when you think back, when it's all done, and you're not looking at life through that prism anymore, you're thinking, how could you casually talk that way about these guys?
No, it's psychotic.
It's sick.
Yeah.
It's like being possessed by a demon.
Right. Did you feel like it was an addiction?
It was an addiction. And it was the process of desensitizing was already done.
Yeah.
I mean, it was no longer remorse. There's no remorse. There's no, I slept like a baby. Right. I said you could eat a hot dog and talk about it.
Yeah.
Make fun of it. What sick bastard does that?
And you didn't numb yourself with drugs.
Right. Oh, no. Now, Sailor used, but he wasn't even high He used, but at the time he was. I didn't use drugs, but we were. And think about this now. As I talk about this, I know that people that live in the gang world are probably looking at this story of mine through a different prism. But I can tell you that all of us, all those guys in that criminal life, mobsters, cartel guys, prison gang guys, those are acts of cowards. That's what cowards do. You know what I mean? The way we took those people out is pure cowardice. That didn't make me a man. When I think back about it, it says, what do you think you did? What prize were you think you're going to attain from doing those kind of things, right? It's no big deal to take somebody for a ride. You got a few of you taking somebody for a ride, but what does that tell you? Gangs don't play fair.
No.
There's no such thing as a fair fight or give them a fair shot or whatever. No.
Well, there are many governments, like an organization like EME is powerful enough to where they operate like a mini government within the prison system, and governments don't play fair. No. The cops don't. There is no losing when you're a cop. No. You use the force that's necessary to achieve your aim. And
you understand that. Once you understand what we're talking about, that concept, then you know that, hey, that's not how gangs don't work to make give somebody an opportunity to remain breathing. I hear these guys talk about how many people they've knocked out and this. I hear it all the time. I laugh when I hear it and I go, we never measured ourselves by how many people we could physically beat up. If you didn't kill that target, it was unworthy of conversation. Wow. That's the way we looked at it.
Yeah.
But it's sick.
Yeah.
It's a very sick thing to say.
But you were a good soldier, like a great soldier.
I was a leader. I was a leader that these guys, and there's some alive today. They obviously will not admit it, but I was there. I was there when I would lead them in certain things that I can't talk about. Stoney Galaz. He's still in prison doing life. Willie Bobo just got rearrested. Willie Govia, he was on the commission, the federal commission in the federal prison system for the Mexican Mafia. And there are several of those guys, not a whole lot anymore, that are still alive that remember that I would lead. I didn't just talk the talk. I was in the front lines. And I was there and I was organizing the stuff to do it and get it done. Why talk? Sailor's still alive. He pulled out of that life. He remembers. Whenever him and I get together, we invariably go back to talking about those days. Yeah. Kind of like guys that fought in the war together.
Totally.
The wives don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They close the door.
No.
But we'll sit down and I think one of these days I'm going to do an interview with him. It's just the two of us.
Yeah.
I'll let him talk,
Man, do it for our channel.
Yeah. We figure something out. Yeah.
So you're opening up this whole heroin market in California, just using brute force and murder if necessary, in conjunction with Joe Morgan, who's working with Tijuana cartels or families, and you were successful at it.
Right.
So now this is $1 million heroin operation. Explain how the drug dealing works within La M on the streets and prison, because you mentioned taxes earlier. I know that there's a tax that everybody that's associated or selling directly for La M has to pay. Can you explain that?
That came into play in the 90s. In the 90s, what happened is they started with the no drive-by edict. They instructed and told the street gangs there were not going to be any more drive-bys. If you're going to get at each other, you're going to do walk-ups. You're going to walk up to your targets. And this was of all the heat that was being generated because of drive-bys. African-American and Mexican gangs, there was a lot of that going on back in that time frame. So there were a couple of things there. It's diffusing the public opinion or the heat that was being generated because of this. And also, it was the Mexican Mafia's way of harnessing the gangs under this umbrella this common thing of let's do it this way. We're not going to do that anymore. Anybody who violates a no drive-by edict will be targeted by all the other gangs. So they liked it. There were meetings. There were small meetings at different parks. There was a big meeting at Elysian Park. In fact, that one is chronicled pretty good. It was right across the street from the LAPD Academy. And so they even staged a football game, like, in between the meeting and the academy.
Yeah.
When the officers would drive by that park, they would see a football game and they think it's normal activity.
Yeah.
And here you got dozens of gang members, listening to a big homie, a Mexican Mafia guy. And in Orange County, I've got a lot of that footage. In Orange County, the same thing. Sana did the same thing in Orange County. So that's how that began, by controlling the gangs to that degree, reestablishing their ties with now the different cartels. Main cartel at that time was the AFO in the 90s.
The Ariano Felix organization out of Tijuana.
And there were a lot of dynamics that played into that. Not only the relationship that was there, but it was further enhanced with the addition of David Barron. David Barron was a Mexican Mafia member from Logan Heights, San Diego street gang. He was a Mexican national. He was born in Tijuana, I believe. And when he paroled in the 90s, he ends up going to Tijuana, became a bodyguard for the Arianos.
That's right.
And then, in fact, he saved some of them from Chapo Guzman in Puerto Vallarta at a club, and killed a couple of Chapo's men and got them out there.
Yeah.
They got him on a plane back to Tijuana, and they were so grateful. They asked him if he wanted to be the head of their enforcement squad, their execution squad.
He's portrayed in Narcos Mexico on Netflix. Yeah.
He is. And he's also in my book, The Unholy Alliance, where I do a chapter on him. I knew a couple of his sicarios who were Mexican Mafia guys who I talked to and gave me a lot of the inside stuff that they performed. And David was pretty ruthless, but that was him and Bat Marquez. Bat Marquez is another San Diego gang member from Del Sol who recruited Popeye into the Mexican Mafia. And then Popeye, of course, pulled him in when he was in Tijuana working for the AFO, pulled in other brothers as well. Look, here's the ephedrine, which is the ingredient for meth. Take as many barrels as you want. It's on them. This and that. And all the fellas had to do is get cooks in the desert, Palmdale, places like that.
Right.
They had the cooks there. The heroin was just second nature. I mean, that's automatic. Whatever they can move, that's how that pipeline began. With David pushing it, Popeye, and the guys that were out. Now you got the guys in prison. As most of these guys started getting busted, now they have their territories. So by way of having those territories on the streets, their shot calling ability is now possible from the inside.
Right.
Now you got cell phones.
Yeah.
Think of the evolvement as we're coming forward. Today, average person watching this podcast, a cell phone, they can't remember what it was like not to have a cell phone. I remember when I cannot tell you how we killed so many people and did so many things without the use of a cell phone. We had beepers, and that assisted us in that regard. But now you got cell phones. You got guys like Ronnie Ayala, who was on death row. How does he get a cell phone to make a conference call? So you got guys, Mexican Mafia guys in the state of California in a level 4 prison yard, communicating with somebody in Mexico, communicating with somebody in San Diego or LA, and maybe somebody in a federal prison on a conference call whenever they want to. That little phone kills more people than a prison shank. Prison shank, it's hard to kill somebody in prison, especially if they know that you're after them. I mean, it's not an easy task. You hear about people getting killed and all that all the time. It's not an easy task. But I'll tell you, that little cell phone, is 100 times more dangerous than the shank.
Okay, so all of these towns and neighborhoods throughout California are now de facto under control of big homies that are in prison.
In one way or another, yes.
Okay, so, and they've got enough power to where they can actually dictate what people do on the streets.
And the reason they have that power, because they've already established their hierarchy. You have your camaradas. Okay, Sureños are anybody. Okay, Sureños literally means Southerners.
Mm-hmm.
Assumption is Southern California, not just Los Angeles. It's Inland Empire, which is Riverside and San Bernardino County, Imperial County, San Diego County. You might as well throw Kern County, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County. That's technically Central Cal, but they're all considered that same one big mad thing. So all these Sureños have the more active and aggressive and functioning guys in that group are called camaradas. They're referred to as camaradas. A camarada is Spanish slang for a friend.
Yeah, comrade.
He's my comrade. Yeah, he's my camarada. He's my dog, my road dog or whatever. Just a slang word for that. Okay. But it also has another meaning in the Sureño world and in the Mexican Mafia world. A camarada is the highest placed Sureño on the fast track to possibly being made. So those guys are some of them are enforcers, money earners, guys that are the head of the crews. They're the ones that direct.
Right.
Somebody got to, they got to take out so-and-so. He directs the crew, go take him out.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. They don't ask. They just do the job. Directing the money, whoever it is that's in charge of depositing the money, paying somebody, whatever. The cartels that they're working. Cartels found out, wow, why do we have to worry about all the BS when Mexican Mafia can take care of it for us? I don't know how many indictments. I can pull them up.
Right.
And you can read the language of the indictments yourself, And there's different cartels. It's not like the EME has allegiance to one cartel.
Yeah.
Whoever they make money with, whoever they establish, they meet them in prison. I got pictures with Benjamin in a federal prison surrounded by Mexican Mafia guys.
Wow.
What do you think they're talking about? What do you think they're doing?
Yeah, talking about keys.
All of it is networking, kind of like what we do with YouTube. We network with people. They do the same thing, and they exchange contracts.
Right.
Aryan Brotherhood and Mexican Mafia. To this day, I hear this thing, well, their relationship is not the way it used to be, and it's kind of like on shaky grounds. I say bullshit. If the Mexican Mafia it needs to kill a target in the federal prison system and they cannot get to him, and the AB can, or their associates, AB will take care of it.
Wow.
Gladly.
Yeah.
And the other way around is also true.
They're allies.
They're allies.
Okay, so it's the Sureños. Now, when you say Sureño, could that mean somebody from like a Ventura, if they're in Ventura, California, and they're part of like a local street gang that's affiliated or takes orders from a camarada that's affiliated with the Mexican Mafia?
Yeah.
Are they called Sureños? Do they call themselves Sureños on the street? Or could they be, I'm from Florencia, or I'm from the Ventura gang, but I am a Southerner, I'm a Sureño? Or do they call themselves Sureños?
On the streets.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. On the streets, they don't have to call themselves Sureños,
Right.
but they're functioning as Sureños because they're sympathetic and they're facilitating for Sureños, or better put, for the Mexican Mafia. And I'll take it one step further. Out of state.
Right.
Nevada, Ohio, Florida. I'm just thinking of places that I know. Washington, Utah. You have Sureños functioning over there and some of them say they're Sureños. Other ones, maybe they want to be under the radar and they don't want to say it, which is smart, but they're working under the Mexican Mafia umbrella. There's a big homie that's pushing that button.
Right. And those are like the equivalent of like a plaza boss
Yeah.
within the cartel in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay, and that big homie is the one who's connected directly to, that camarada is directly connected to somebody within La EME
Right.
that's shot calling or supervising, and they're kicking up a percentage of what they make selling drugs
Yeah.
to that person, that shot caller, who's most likely in prison.
Yeah.
And what is that tax? Like 10%?
It'll vary. It'll just depend on how much money is being generated. The ones that are not that productive, maybe it's a higher percentage.
Right.
The ones that are generating more money, they want their facilitator. If you're my highly placed camarada generating a lot of money, I want you to be happy. So
Yeah.
I don't need, but maybe 10%.
Right.
Okay. The 18th Street, which is probably one of the most productive street gangs, they had I think 4 or 5 guys. They had a label. The media, they call them the $1 Million Club because they're all millionaires. And they had a compound. Some of them guys had a compound. And I think it was Rocky Delgadillo, a councilman, he filed I think it was a $5 million civil lawsuit and won and got paid back then against them. Where did they get the money?
Right.
The proceeds.
Right. And 18th Street, obviously famous street gang from 18th Street in LA. Go figure. They are Surenos. That's an example of a very, very strong Sureno clique.
Because of the representation. You ever heard in school, remember in school, taxation without representation?
Of course.
Okay, that was a famous history in your history class. I think I remember that very well.
The American Revolution based off of that.
Same thing with gangs. If you have big homies from your gang, first of all, remember, status. First thing I hear from many officers all over the place, how can 50,000, 60,000 Sureños, why don't they just rebel and do their own thing?
Right.
Why on earth would they allow some guy, some junkie sitting in a prison? Says, that took time. What you don't understand, these guys, think of it as like different families. You have dysfunctional uncles, right, that are in your family. You love your uncle. You look up to them. You're proud of them because they were from your family. And they were badass. Now they're old and this guy might be in a wheelchair. Now you're representing him. You're representing your family.
Right.
You're taking care of the business. You're not going to throw him under the bus. You're going to say, look, uncle so-and-so or dad, just chill. Let me handle it. I'm going to take care of it for you. He's going to take you up on that. So that status, that relationship remains.
Yeah.
It's just handed down. It proliferates.
Yeah.
And so all these kids in other states, I like to say what do you call it? The Sureños that the ones from other states that don't know nothing about the LA scene, they don't have to. I say they probably watch too many episodes of Gangland, right? But the danger that they represent is real, because a wannabe is a gonna be, and they're proving themselves. Right? So they want a body count, so they're going to prove themselves. They're going to function on their behalf, and they're going to fly the Sureño flag. They could be in Chicago, they could be in New York, wherever. I know they have their predominant gangs over there, but you got this like a damn cancer that spreads throughout the country, and this is all documented.
Yeah.
By the way.
Fascinating. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Getting back to 1975, you're leading this Murder Inc. For La EME, just crazy.
It's crazy.
Psycho, killing people, taking turf, organizing, really like getting that economic power that keeps this machine moving, right?
And spreading the fear. That was part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. How many markets do you remember taking? How many different towns and drug dealers do you remember pressing so they would accept your product?
During that period, it was mostly East LA and a little part of Nela, just a little. It was mostly on the east side, and you're talking at least a dozen at that time. I was more interested in pulling the trigger because that's what I specialized in.
Right.
I was comfortable. If I wanted a brand new car, I'd go buy it. I even tried establishing credit one time. I went, you're going to laugh at this. I bought a brand new Chrysler Cordova because I already had a car. But I saw Ricardo Montalban on TV in a commercial talking about Corinthian leather with that exaggerated accent of his, right? And I'm looking at the Cordova, and he's touching the leather, and I'm going, that's some good shit right there. So I went to the dealership and decided I wanted a brand new root beer Chrysler Cordova with Corinthian leather, right?
Yeah.
And it was $8,700 brand new. All right?
$8,700.
$8,700. I mean, today.
Good times.
Yeah. And I gave him. Well, I was going to pay him cash, and he said, "We can finance it for you if you'd like." I go, how about I give you $7,700 and let's finance $1,000? Okay. So we're doing the paperwork, and then they come back, and the guy tells me, "Well, I have good news and bad news." I said, "Give me the bad news first. You don't qualify for credit." I said, "Okay, but I got good news." Look, don't worry about it. Here's the other $1,000. Oh, no. We'll finance it. The dealership will finance it for you. I said, I don't need it. It was just me wanting to get credit so I could say, hey, I got good credit.
So how much were you being paid?
What do you mean?
Like, how much money were you making on the street? And how was that structured?
Well,
because you weren't the one selling drugs specifically. So where was your money coming from?
Well, for the few months that I was out there, I would say we didn't have accountants. I didn't really keep track. It wasn't like I wasn't individually generating millions or anything like that, but I had 50,000 to play with on any given day.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and that's from heroin sales, or that's from robberies? Okay.
No, that was from heroin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing the collections too. You're dropping off and collecting.
Others are doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was enjoying. I was going to Vegas. I was, and then in the middle of that, I had a girlfriend. I had her thinking that I had a job. So I remember having to pretend like I was going to work, and I wasn't going to work. I'd end up at another place, and then I had two homes that I had purchased, one in Rosemead, one in Pico Rivera. Ended up losing them both in the end.
What I mean, your family now, after this long stretch, I assume they don't know what's going on.
No.
Are they just happy to have you home?
Yes.
What's your relationship now with your mother and your stepfather?
Well, they're happy to have me home for sure. Mom is asking, what I'm doing with my life, and of course, I have to come up with a story for them. I'm looking for a job, and if my parole officer comes, tell them that I'm out job hunting. Mm-hmm. But I had other residences where I would keep drugs, money, weapons, never connected to the residence. Remember, all this happened in a matter of months.
Yeah.
And then when I get arrested, I was actually going to Vegas. I think that it was October 9th, 1975. And the day after October 9th, I think it would have been a weekend, maybe a Friday, we were going to go to Vegas to get married.
Oh.
So, and now I'm arrested, and I got to call her and tell her I'm arrested with her brother for murder. So I let the phone ring twice and hung up because I didn't want to tell her. So then I called her sister and told her to break the news.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was October of 1975.
You're arrested for the murders with Saylor.
For
the murders of
the Reyes brothers.
The Reyes brothers in Bakersfield. How did they get onto you guys?
A neighbor had seen something that she considered suspicious at the crime scene. She took down the license plate number, gave it to the responding officers later when they arrived, and we were on our way back on the Grapevine, heading south. As I'm driving, I look at one of the landings, and I see a black and white CHP car, and two officers are outside of their car, like talking, and one of them does a double take as we're going by, and as I see that briefly, and then I'm out of their view, and I tell everybody in the car, if we have any contraband in the car, get rid of it now. I think they're going to be following us.
And this is on your way back from the murder?
From the murder.
Okay.
Which was the day after, I think, of the murder.
Okay.
Or that evening, one or the other. And then sure enough, we did get a tail. The highway patrol was behind us. They remained about a quarter mile behind us on the Grapevine. So that told me that they had already radioed ahead. And there's probably units that were going to be waiting for us ahead somewhere. So I'm already figuring that. So I asked Sailor, I said, so what do we have in the car? He says, we have the murder weapon. I said, I thought we got rid of it. I thought you got rid of it. He says, no, I still have it. Oh, shit. So I tell Gloria, who's on the right on the back seat. I think she's on the back. No, she's in the front on the passenger side. And I tell her, as soon as I tell you, we get to a place because you know how the Grapevine is real curvy. I says, throw the gun so that it goes over and down, you know. And what I wanted to do is, in one of those instances where I'm not in view of the CHP unit that could see that, as soon as we're out of their view for a little bit, that's when I'm going to tell her to throw it. So what she ends up doing, when I tell her to throw it, she flings it out the window, and it hits a mile marker. Oh, right? No. What are the odds? It hits a mile marker, and it lands back in a truck.
You can't let a girl throw.
The truck driver sees. He testified. He said, I saw an arm fling an item out the window. All of a sudden, I felt my truck run over an item. I'm thinking, okay, he felt his truck run over the gun that landed back on the highway. And, they ended up seizing that gun. They ended up arresting us at the end on Castaic, at the Lake Hughes Drive, Lake Hughes Road. When you come off the Grapevine, they had a gauntlet of chippies and sheriff's guys. And they end up arresting us there. Later, I find out that the gun, a truck driver had called it in, and they got the gun. But the ballistics, they couldn't run ballistics on them because I guess the truck had done something to the barrel so that they couldn't do it. Well, what are the odds of that?
Wow.
First, what are the odds of the gun hitting the mile marker? And then two, what are the odds of a truck or anything running over the gun and successfully screwing up the barrel?
Right.
I mean,
So you thought you had action. You thought you might have been able to beat the case.
Oh yeah. No, that part. Yeah. Now, the murder weapon would have really screwed us up. Now it's just a 38.
Right.
On that one, it's just a 38. He actually got rid of one of the murder weapons, but the second one, I don't know why he didn't get rid of it, but that was in the vehicle. And so anyway.
And the victims weren't shot. What's his name?
No, Ronnie was stabbed.
Yeah, the other brother.
Woodsy.
Was he shot with the 38?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's bad still because he's got a bullet, 38 bullet, and they found a 38.
Yes. So it could conceivably be a weapon if they could tie us to the scene and all that. It was still kind of like touch and go. There's probably enough reasonable doubt. But whatever the case is, we go back. We're remanded to custody. From there, they take us to the Valencia substation. From there, the Bakersfield officers come and take us to Kern County. And then, we're facing death penalty. At that time, they overturned it in 76. It was a California ruling. The Supreme Court did away with the death penalty. So now, anybody convicted of a capital offense after the 1976 ruling can receive the death penalty, but anybody prior to that, including us, we're facing now life in prison.
Right.
Neither one of those prospects fazed me or Sailor.
Wow.
Our mindset at the time, my mindset, I can tell you for a fact, was If I die honorably for my organization. If I get life in prison, it's a family reunion. That's what it is. I had fun before that. I'll have fun after that. And think about this. In California, life in prison, that's the worst. First degree conviction was 7 years to the board.
Wow.
That's
crazy. There was no life without.
Well, there was. But this was not life. This was not going to be a life without. This was
really.
It's going to be either just life or second degree, or we plead guilty, like we ultimately did.
Okay.
We ultimately did, but we got the cases dismissed first, and we did get out. We're getting there.
Explain that.
Yeah. Okay. So while I'm in the Kern County Jail, they got me single cell status on one floor. And they got Sailor on a higher floor in single cell status. They wanted to separate it from each other, of course. Going through the pretrial motions and the whole thing. Cyclona was up on the third floor with the female part. And the prosecution did something that delayed the trial, that prompted our attorneys to file a speedy trial denial motion, which was accepted. We're in a redneck, hang-em high county.
Sure.
Kern County.
Yeah.
No judge is going to do that. Two city boys coming into their Christian, family-oriented county.
Yeah, and committing a horrendous murder.
Yeah, to two of their citizens. And I think any judge worth his salt is going to say, no. They want this kind of relief to get it from the appellate court. But that's what happened. And I couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, this is crazy. What had happened now, right around that time, before that motion was filed, they would allow people from the outside to come in and visit from the churches. They'd come in and visit the inmates. And when they'd come to our section, there was like 8 of us back there, single cell guys. I would cover up. I'd put a towel over my eyes, and I lay down and pretend like I was asleep, and I would avoid them. I never disrespected them. I just didn't engage. I didn't want to hear about religion or any of that.
No.
And but I could hear them. I could hear them singing and all that. Jesus signed my pardon and this and that. And none of that it didn't bother me. It was kind of fun. Let them have their fun. And one day I was kind of bored, and I said, I want to talk to one of these people and just the bullshit, shoot the breeze. So this old man, I could hear him when they got off the elevator. They come walking, and then this old man, he's going to walk past me, figuring I'm asleep like usual, and he kind of backtracks, and he says, "How you doing?" He starts talking to me, real friendly, and before I know it, he wants to pray with me. I go, "Sure," or pray for me. He stuck his bony fingers to the bars, put his hands around mine, closed his eyes and lowered his head. I closed my eyes, I lowered my head, and he started praying for me. Well, that was the beginning of a relationship where I look forward to his company once a week, every Sunday. He would leave me a Bible or literature or whatever, and he would pray for me. So I started thinking, as I'm there alone, of all my victims, how they died, how I killed them, shot them, strangled them, stabbed them, however they died. And I started thinking of their families, how they must have felt, how my family would feel if it was me. So the word remorse, which was not in my vocabulary, all of a sudden kicks in. I'm feeling bad for these victims. Man, that's bad. Like my eyes were open suddenly. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't I see this before? I didn't want to see it. Mm-hmm. I was blinded. I was, there. And I'm still, that part is making me feel bad, but and there's like another voice telling me that I'm showing weakness by even thinking about it, right? So that was the first obstacle. I was already feeling bad about it. The second obstacle, and the most difficult for me, was forgiveness, where they talked about a God that forgave everything and anything And being a Catholic, I was an altar boy. There was a different category of sins. Like to murder somebody was considered a mortal sin. So that's like the worst of the worst, And I'm thinking, there's no way I can be forgiven, man. The cops that would escort us to court, if looks could kill, we'd be dead. Because they'd look at us, you could tell it was hatred. Yeah. I said, our victims' families, I'm sure they wouldn't be in a forgiving mood, to forgive us for taking out their family member. Yeah. And I don't even think I could forgive myself if I really sat down and thought about it. So I said, how could anybody? And then all of a sudden, from trying to understand forgiveness, I'm thinking, I want this. I want this forgiveness. Whoever's giving it, whoever's doling it out, I want it. And so I asked them, how do you really get it? And they said, well, we can lead you to the Lord and blah, blah, blah. Can I do it on my own? Well, yeah. They told me, confess, acknowledge, this and that. And that's one night, that's what I ended up doing. I got on my knees in my cell, nobody around me, and I unloaded everything that I remembered that I had done. And I said, and I know that you know more than what I can even remember. And I remember I cried. I was crying as I was unloading this. And then I felt like something exited my body, like a physical something leaving my body. Wow. And I was drained. So I wrote that off to just being physically spent from the emotion expended from crying and all. I cannot tell you the last time I had cried, right? Like that, or at all. So here I am thinking, wow, I didn't hear any voice how do I know I'm forgiven? So they come to see me and I tell them, all right, I did what you said and this and that, but I didn't hear no voices. And I remember the old man, he told me something I never forget. He said, you are not saved by feelings, you're saved by faith. So it don't matter how you feel or what you didn't hear or whatever. So I never forgot that. And I made a decision right there and then. I said, you know what, this is from God. So I got to do something. And so when the cases were dismissed, not connected to this at all, right?
Yeah.
In other words, to me, maybe they are connected and I don't know. Because the Christian people seem to believe that. Because when the newspaper said, speedy trial denial frees 2 Reyes suspects, that was a headline. And I saw it. And then they saw it and came to visit on Sunday. And they were praising God and saying hallelujah that the Lord had opened the gates. And I'm looking at them sideways like, come on, God didn't do that. You know what I mean? Just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe he did. I don't know. All I know is that I made a decision right there and then in my mind. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something. And I decided to work undercover.
Wow.
So I don't know if you have enough time to cover that.
We are going to go into that in part 2.
Okay.
That is the perfect stopping point. That did not end like I thought it was going to end.
Right.
I thought you were going to tell me that you started working undercover to save yourself from prosecution or a life sentence.
No, you'll get a kick.
Wow.
You're gonna really get blown away thinking, how did this really happen? Yeah.
That is the most gangsterist shit I have ever heard in my life.
Well, the average person that sees my story and that's what they believe, that I did it to save my ass, that I did, because they want to believe that, because a no good rat, that's the only way that he...
Sammy the Bull.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the only, whatever. With no disrespect to Sammy or anything. I'm just saying, that's what a person will think. He did it to save his ass.
Right.
Well, no, I didn't have nothing to say. I was going to get released. The cases had been dismissed. I was going to get discharged from parole in a month and a half. No cases pending. Highest standing with the fellas. I could have walked away.
GOAT.
Gone.
Greatest of all time.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, let's I want to plug, because after all that is about to happen, through all of this, you've become a prolific author. And so I want to plug your books. Okay. And I'm excited because I'm going to read some of these, because these, I assume you go into the minutia of these small little anecdotes from your prison experience, et cetera.
Yeah.
You're also a successful, lecturer, and you work with the, law enforcement and stuff. Where can people find your best work and then go out from there? Because you got a lot of books.
Yeah, Amazon. Everything right now is either through Police and Fire Publishing, which will redirect you to Amazon. My autobiography is the Mexican Mafia, the Gang of Gangs, from Altar Boy to Hitman. The next major significant book that I co-authored with Rene Enriquez, he's another dropout, a younger member, is the Mexican Mafia Encyclopedia. That's also in the...
Oh, wow. That sounds great.
So those are like the two main ones. The next one after that for the prison guys is the Prison Menace. That's a third book. The most recent book that I co-authored is The Boys from Boyle Heights.
Yes.
And it's a story of Tony Moreno, who was Pac-Man in the movie Colors.
Oh, no shit.
Sean Penn played his role. He's the Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And so Tony and I were both born and raised in Boyle Heights. So it's a parallel story of the gang member and the gang cop.
Wow.
So
can people in prison order your books?
No, people in prison are prohibited according to the rules of prison, because the prison, I think, they look at it like glorification. But the black market, the guys, there's guys that have been busted.
Get those books in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you gave me a copy of a DVD, which I don't even know how to play this.
I know.
Mundo, from Altar Boy to Hitman.
You can watch it for free. Anybody can watch that for free.
Right. Can they get it anywhere that's digital and not physical?
Yes. Yeah, they can go, if you Google the movie Mundo and free, you'll probably find it on Roku.
Yeah.
And they've got 2 or 3 streaming channels where you can watch that for free.
Oh, I can't wait. Wait. Very excited.
So I gave you the hard copy.
Yeah, no, this is a collector's item. This is going to stay in my office in the wrapping, okay?
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. I'm not even going to attempt to. Mundo, that was great. And let's switch over to part 2, which you can get early over at patreon.com/The Connect Show. We're here with, the one and only. It's just a piece of history that's incredible. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
God bless you.